It's still morning. Good morning. It's too dark. I can't tell if it's day or afternoon. Um, Thanks so much for making time. I want to make sure the next 30 minutes is useful for you. It's a small, intimate group. It doesn't have to be a presentation style, me speaking, you listening. I'll dive into things that we can play with. Any questions you have out of curiosity that you want to run by AI, feel free to throw it at me, and I will do a live demo. Let's see if we can, trigger the Murphy's curse of a live demo. But it's an open challenge. Your job is to trip me up in the demo. So ask and think of the toughest questions you can. Um, uh, I mean, honestly, like we have a whole lot to change and work on, and we've been doing a whole lot of the same multiple decades in. So I'm not here to pitch a product or service. I'm simply here to show you some of the scars on the back of me, my team at large at Komodo, on what our learnings have been and how we've been able to like run at the speed of R&D for AI and Gen AI. So any questions you have out of your curiosity, don't wait for me to open up for questions. Just raise your hand, ask your question. We'll address it right there. Um, I'm going to skip a whole lot of theory just to get to simple view of, so what does this all mean? How does it work? Like, how can I use it? And how do people expect to use it today? Right? Our thesis was this simple. When you give or when you remove the threshold of time and cost in being able to do a particular task, what can people do and what will people do? Not from the lens of let's do the same thing with half the number of head count, but more from a thinking of what would your people do if you gave them the superpower? I'm talking about something called Jevon's paradox. The realization 5, maybe 7 years ago was that AI was going to be so good that we're not going to need radiologists anymore. Does anyone want to make a bet if you succeeded on it? We actually hire 7% more radiologists today compared to 5 years. Now, what happened is not that AI failed, but AI succeeded so well in the sense that radiology or radiological images was an expensive, time consuming process. So they only did it very selectively. And the expertise associated with was even more expensive. So what AI did, what would have taken multiple weeks and multiple days to summarize and generate a summary, happened in a few minutes and in an afternoon. So the result of it was with greater power came greater applications, meaning now doctors and HCOs, the hospital settings, use them quite liberally in the sense that things that would have taken multiple weeks to even realize that a radiological image is needed now happen so quickly because we removed the barrier of it takes 2 weeks and an afternoon for someone to write up a report. So the realization about we hire more radiologists now is actually proof that how can AI give superpowers to existing people and what would our people do if we gave them the superpower. Now that would operate with less number of people. It seems to be the media story around it's coming for your jobs. No, it's not. It's going to make you better at the current job. So with that aside, let me actually jump into what our thinking has been and how we went about solving it. Right? I'm a programmer by training, and if someone asks me, "Hey, can you pull this thing up for me?" I'm thinking in these steps. Like, okay, what are they asking me to do? Let me think through what data do I need, what kind of analysis do I need to run, and what report are they used to getting. And when we started thinking this problem in the same way, like, hey, like if I threw a random problem at a model, at a foundational model, what does it really need? It needs the ability to create a plan. And for it to create a plan, it needs to have the foundational knowledge of what is the question? What's the context of the question? What do I need to know before I can write a plan? Most of what I'm going to show you is going to be on top of something called Komodo Healthcare Map. It's real world data of 330 plus million population in the United States, and you can ask it live questions, and it's as fresh as last week. And then the last aspect around when a particular question is asked, do you really expect someone to throw you like a bar chart and a line chart and a box whisker plot? Or do you expect a simple answer like, hey, these are 5 things and you need to do, focus on these 3. The last 4 and 5, feel free to skip it. Right? So the intent behind what I wanted or what we wanted the model to do was similar, like be an informed subject matter expert that knows the question, can calculate the context, knows how to answer the question, but don't answer the question mechanically in the sense that a bar chart, a line chart, and a box whisker. Instead, summarize it as a PhD level expertise and give the summary in plain English. To give you a quick example, I'm going to give you a whole lot of commercial and RWHUR examples. Bear with it. But I'll dive into ClinDev and ClinOps. This is a typical question when you're about to launch a drug. You have to make a case to a payer, a provider, as to why your drug is effective and how you negotiate terms, so on and so forth. It's typically a few weeks worth of work. Hey, do a HCRU or healthcare resource utilization analysis of a particular type of drug and write a value dossier that I can put in front of a pair. A biostatistician, a statistician, a couple of medical writing folks, and all of the team works on a project plan, writes a thesis, and they get to a point where the first draft is available in maybe a week or 2, and if your team is really good, in an afternoon. And if you have that team, you should let me know. I want to talk to them. But our intention was, how do we get to a very reliable, highly confident first draft in the first 30 minutes? And the work that we have done on top of the base models is that. And let's skip a couple of them. Let's go into see how this thing looks. Let me see if I could bump up. That's better. So what you're looking at is what Komodo built. It's called Marmot. It's a encapsulation of multiple models. In this case, Gemini Pro, OpenAI, and some varying aspects of Anthropic models, and some very, very lightweight models that give us speed when we need it. For example, hey, change that line chart to a bar chart. We've used a specific model that runs locally at a faster pace. So what you're looking at is, I simply asked this question. This was me this morning because I didn't want to call someone specifically. I looked at the attendance. Someone from Vertex was supposed to be here. So I picked up, a clinical trial. Hi, whoever was from Vertex. Sorry if I'm making mistakes. You can yell at me after. This is like an uninformed person asking a set of questions, and I imagine garbage in, garbage out. A person who doesn't know the business asks a set of questions, you get vague, broad answers. So forgive me for that, but I promise you, I'll find 5 minutes with you after. This was me looking at, hey, what's critical for Vertex? What's the company working on? Can we just pick up one of the trials and look for opportunities to optimize? So I simply typed in this plain text. It was this morning, 5 a.m. I'm interested in optimizing inclusion-exclusion criteria for this trial. Nothing else. No other context. This is, but what we gave the set of tools are, what we gave Marmot are a set of tools to, one, understand what the question is. In this case, it goes to clinicaltrials.gov to try to understand the context of the question before it answers. And it also goes to PubMed to understand what research has been done in this disease area, and how to understand the whole context before it kind of regurgitates some of the existing material. So it quickly comes back, took me maybe a couple of minutes with this view around, hey, this is a type 1 diabetes phase 3 trial. It's actually recruiting right now. Here's, current inclusion exclusion criteria as submitted to FDA. And because I asked it, I want to look for ways to optimize this. And what you're looking at here is, these are all the things that have been top of my mind of playing with it all morning. Oh no. What did I do? Yeah, that one. Okay, good. See why we need humans. It parsed the context into, let me gain the knowledge of the disease area before I answer the question. So the way it gains knowledge is by going to PubMed. Who has published in this disease area? Has there been any publication on a particular trial, particular company? Once it accrues enough knowledge, then it goes, yeah, I think I got it down. I understand the context of the question. Now it says, let me look further into how do I, from the current 330 million population, how do I identify people with these conditions? So if you're privy to how current coding systems work, ICD-10 and DC codes, so it's now making an analytical plan behind, for type 1 diabetes, before I even make a recommendation, let me look at how to narrow down a set of ICD-10 and an NDC code. And if there are any procedure codes, it comes back with all of those. And then starts writing actual code. In this case, it's writing, it can write SQL, R, or Python, and it has access to Komodo's Plaid data fabric. It identifies a set of ICD-10 codes, and now it's starting to write code to understand demographic patterns, where the patients are. Notice I haven't told it to go look for where the patient exists, nor have I told it to count patients at a state level. I simply said I want to optimize inclusion-exclusion criteria. So from all of the context download it has from PubMed and clinicaltrial.gov, it's starting to take baby steps towards, let me just get a little deeper into data. So now it's counting patients at a state level. That's the analytic step. Our engineering team jokes that they put some simple English language on top of the code because they think I don't know code. So this is their way of, a subtle diss. But it works, it helps. I'm old. In this case, you can also see, for example, if you're code native, you can dive into the code, see the code for yourself. But the team also did me a favor by just saying like, hey, this block is doing this particular task. And keeps going, on and on and on. And as and when it needs more information, it goes into external sources to learn more. As it does research, it needs more information, it goes back and does more research. But what it comes back with is this view that here's a fact I learned from clinicaltrials.gov, and here's my analysis that I have run from the code I wrote against the data I have access to. What it's saying, and in this particular thing, is For type 1 diabetes, here are my recommendations. It's a stem cell derived islet cell therapy, and 83% of participating population achieves insulin independence at 1 year. This is from its PubMed knowledge, and it starts talking about optimized inclusion criteria. Goes through at length about what it thinks a recommendation for optimization would be and why. It's looking at simply descriptive things. Let me scroll further. The next set of question I asked was, show me availability of patients in the US with these criteria and write me a comprehensive study plan. And it further goes into its own thinking, researching, writing code, but comes back with this view that, hey, if you were about to start this trial, these are the top 5 states. They account for about 37%. Top 15 states represent about 70% of eligible patient population. So on and so forth. And it kind of digs deeper into both providing facts and doing analysis from scratch. This is looking at the Komodo Healthcare Map data that I mentioned earlier. But where it gets interesting is it starts putting all of this discrete sets of analysis in the context of giving you a expert level recommendation. And the bottom is the part where it gets fascinating. Most of what you have seen is simply looking at how it thinks, how it acts, and what it does. This is the part where LLMs can do a bit of magic. I'll share the export with you. Right, it's doing top 5 states. You should do that. If you're planning the trial today, these are good clusters to plan. And it also points to specific HCOs or sites that could be good collaborators. Like this is me spitballing 5 a.m. And because we also have access to PIs and sites and HCOs, it's making even more granular recommendations. I read through 20% of this, but I'm eager to ask a follow-up question. My follow-up question was, okay, all of this is good. How can I relax this inclusion-exclusion criteria? And what would it do for my clinical trial timelines? And also, it does one more thing. I'll spare you the detail, but it also does one more thing about, okay, you have the opportunity to relax this, but you can meet the regulatory rigor in methodology. So in its assessment, under the current optimized criteria, approximately 1,600 patients that would be eligible for this trial. The current recruitment timeline is about 36 months. And then it starts looking at where it is the most restrictive inclusion criteria and most restrictive exclusion criteria. And the reason it knows this is because it's writing code behind that particular phrase, queries the current healthcare map, and knows the number of patients that are eligible for this particular criteria is much lower compared to a type 1 diabetic patient. And it goes further into, here's how you could relax some of the inclusion-exclusion criteria, and here is how it would impact clinical trial. Greater than 2 events, third-party assistance in the past 12 months for hypoglycemia. You can relax it to greater than 1 or have a Clark gold score greater than or equal to 5. It shows you, if you were to do this, how would your eligibility population change and how would your timeline change. So to Dr. Anastasia's point earlier, Like, this is the magic, and this is where the Jevons paradox comes in. We're not looking for doing less with doing equal amount of work with less people. If you gave the power to the people who do this work, if they were to go through this exercise, the question would have been, well, that's not the process. We don't have the money. We didn't budget for this activity. I can't carve out 3 weeks for you to go do this. If we remove the budget and the 3-week ask, and this is me while on a meeting just spitballing, you took out those criteria. So now they could do a sophisticated, complex, detailed analysis, the questions that we couldn't afford, either time, money, or budget, more along those lines. These are now things that we can enable the teams to do. And as all the speakers ahead of me spoke, the fact that you started the trial means that there was a sunk cost in, I'm going to amend the protocol, or I'm going to realize where my site is going to give me feedback that I'm going to change. This kind of gives you a quick, fun, easy, early, low, inexpensive way of asking and doing those complex analysis. I said, if you have questions, feel free to stop me anytime. I see one question, please do.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Puts a lot of things, but I'm still trying to understand the context a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of your very first prompt that you had in place.
Mm-hmm.
So this is after the protocol for VX20881 is finalized. You have, or before?
You can do it anytime.
So
now I don't have access to a protocol that's in writing, so I cheated and took the easiest thing I could for the demo.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
I was wondering the same thing. I mean, in terms of, because at the end of the day, it would still need to know what the indication or the endpoints are, primary and or secondary, and for it to be able to extract the relevant information and make the proposals, right? So that's good. Thank you for setting that context. The second prompt that you had was with the patient population, trying to figure out what is the best sites to be included for that particular study. So would it be a right assumption that it's extracting the data from the electronic health records out there and comparing that with what we need for the indications of this particular study, or whatever is needed for that particular study? Is that where the comparison happening, or is it going through a specific area of certain number of sites, which is in that system, in a RAG model, retrieve, augment, generate model, and getting it from there, or it is going into the whole www and scraping the web and getting the information?
Yeah. So okay, very good question. None of the analysis is being done on publicly available data. Publicly available data is only being used to learn the context of analysis. All of the analysis is being done on governed data. In this case, the governed data it has access to is Komodo Healthcare map data, which includes EHR, EMR, payer provider, a lot of intermediary and PBX data that builds this 24-month longitudinal view into almost every patient that went through US healthcare system, obviously in an anonymized way. But analysis is always run on governed data. And in this case, it's running on close to 90 million HCOs and HCPs that it has access to. So the analysis that you're running on is that large set, not from public data.
Great, thank you.
Good questions. I haven't heard one more question in that context that, yeah, your data, I'm not trusting it. I have better data, right? I respect him for not asking that question, but I can see it. the same set of tools that we built to run on our ontology and our data, we didn't build the tool in a way as a typical a warehouse and a BI application would be. What we did is we simply put hey, here is what you're going to work on in plain text. It's the hard linking is not it has to be in this schema, and it has to be, let me go back, too much detail. It has to be in this schema, or this table has to exist, or this variable has to exist. All we did is, hey model, here are a set of tables. If you're looking for patient data, look at these tables. The model is smart enough to figure out. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is I do see the need for a typical project takes about 8 to 12 different kinds of data sources. And I'm not saying we are so good you don't need 8 to 12. We believe that we're one of the 8 or 12, and the ability to add a mix of data into the context window is something that we created, and that you can. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for a really nice presentation. One question is, I see the data from 2004, 2012, and things are changing as we go by. How is the model like interacting with that? Which one to go forward with, which one to not, and if there are contradicting information? Plus, when human lives are at stake at this kind of data, how do you avoid over dependency on data and that verification at human level?
You basically asked a multiple billion-dollar question of will AI succeed in healthcare and life sciences? There needs to be comfort and there needs to be trust, and the research shows something called human agency scale. And the way we're approaching model development is to the point, until the point you're comfortable letting AI run a particular role or a particular function, you have the say as to what will the agent do and how far will it go. And you can specify exactly when the agent can hand off things to you. So in this case, will I trust anything this thing gives me is a question that we've dealt with. And in that particular example, what we came up with is this view of how do we create this handoff from AI generated artifacts to a real human needs to see it, feel it, review it, bless it before it could be further propagated. What we did for those cases is, sure, this is top down end to end analysis and summary, but our way of injecting human context is everything AI did here, the visualizations, the code, the summary, every step of the way, we created into what we call canvas. You could review it, you could bless it, you could add more sections to it. So we were discussing earlier on how long would it take to create a blessed, quality reviewed artifact out of an AI model. And that's basically how we took the next step. Like, when would a person be comfortable sharing this as their work? Because up until then, it's not theirs. They simply asked the question and AI gave them a particular answer. And this was the next step into how can we make it the human blessed way. And all you're seeing is all the analysis it did and all the summarization it did. You have the ability to add stuff here. You could ask AI to do, for example, this is going to be an interesting one. Hang on. Write an executive summary of this. And it's looking through all of the content that it has access to and all the analysis and questions you've done, and adds a section. It's going through. Obviously, I thought of this question in the morning, and this is the human blessed reviewed output that they're willing to share with someone that, hey, this is my work, I've reviewed it, I have high confidence, here is my human life dependent. If we introduce human, they're used to doing this job already. All it did for the human is it would have taken me 2 weeks to get here. I could get here in 30 minutes. That's the only difference. From there on, the expectation is the expert knows what to do with it and what to look for to do cursory testing. That's it. I'll do one more thing and I'll stop. One of the other things that we did is, like, what gets untold or undertold in all of this is you made the assumption that AI is good and that you want to trust AI, but walk into any conference room, more than half the people will fight you about, yeah, okay, great, like, come back when it's ready. So the active thinking that we've done to be able to build confidence is something we call evaluation frameworks or eval workbench scores. So we built multiple models to review the base model's work and give it constant scores. And when the base model screws up, which it does, by the way, the other models score it negatively or poorly and give active feedback to the base agent that, hey, you did a terrible job, you need to go redo it again. So that reinforced learning and evaluation framework is what we're using. So to your point, what are you doing to give the people confidence? It's this. The model and evaluation should give it certain trust, and the teams that are deploying it should have the control on at what point do I have confidence to put it in, let's say, 20% of my workforce hands. The eval workbench will give you the confidence how correct or how incorrect a particular model is. I'll stop here. I kind of sort of lost track of time. How much time do I have?
We're over.
Okay. All right. Perfect. I mean, if you have questions, I'm going to hang out all day here, but I wanted to break this part around where the AI and models are and what could we do responsibly, and how do we build confidence in a way that we can build coalition, not externally. Even internally, it's been so hard. Doing these in those particular ways and in transparent ways can enable us to make small progress. And one more question I wanted to answer. Someone asked who has this in production to author. 2 companies do in production. They write protocol in production this way. With human in the loop. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks for your time, everyone.